Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Human Services. Minister, can you explain to the House why, almost 3 years after the Safe Pathways scandal and subsequent strong recommendations from the then Commissioner for Children and Young People, Mark Morrissey, there is still no effective monitoring and oversight of children in out-of-home care, as identified by the current Commissioner in her damning report yesterday? Out-of-home care in Tasmania remains recklessly unregulated 5.5 years after the Liberal Party took government. Minister, do you acknowledge this is placing already highly vulnerable children and young people further at risk? And when will you have in place oversight and monitoring of children in out-of-home care?
The Honourable Minister for Human Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the member for her question, and I thank the Commissioner for Children and Young People for her report on Tasmania's out-of-home care system, Madam Speaker. It was the Hodgman Liberal government that, on coming to office, increased the powers and the independence of the Commissioner for Children and Young People to be reporting directly to the Parliament and to undertake own motion investigations as well. It was the Hodgman Liberal government, Madam Speaker, who provided $1 million over 4 years in the 2017-18 budget for the Commissioner to develop and implement an independent out-of-home care monitoring framework and program, the first report of which has now been released, Madam Speaker. And I welcome the Commissioner's report, because this is what we need. This is what we need to keep our policies and our delivery of policies and management in out-of-home care on track and aligned to the best interests of children and young people in our care and best practice in Australia and overseas. And I do welcome the Commissioner's findings that the government's policies and reforms are the right ones and that they are on track, and that our plan to reform and our plans to reform the childcare system in Tasmania are valuable and needed and should continue.
Ms. O'Connor, warning one.
It is entirely disingenuous for the member to characterise this as a damning report. I will quote the Commissioner for Children and Young People directly, saying,
selectively quote.
Yeah, why don't you?
I acknowledge that the work currently underway in the Department of Communities Tasmania, Department of Health and the Department of Justice is directly relevant to the recommendations I make in this report. My recommendations are not intended to amount to a new reform agenda, rather they are designed to strengthen the foundations of our out-of-home care system. In this way, I hope to contribute to the current significant reform agenda underway in our child safety system more broadly, a reform agenda which I support. It is my strong view that we are at a pivotal point.
Thank you, Minister. Relevance. While the Minister might like to praise himself up on this issue, the fact is he has not answered the question about why there is no monitoring and oversight of children in out-of-home care. His excuse-making, it is outrageous. I ask you to direct him, please, to the question on behalf of those kids.
Okay, thank you. As you know, that's not a point of order, and I do ask the Minister to address the issue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think it's outrageous for the member who just resumed her seat to be characterising this as a damning report. I think she's lying about what this report contains
hold on.
Thank you, Madam
Please take your seat, Minister.
I take strong personal offence to that.
Yes.
I am not lying. I have read the report from cover to cover. It is damning, and the Minister should acknowledge that. The language is careful, but it is damning nonetheless.
Yes, right. And I remind the House that language does matter, and we need to be mindful of how we call out other people's actions. This is a very sensitive issue, and I would like the Minister to withdraw that if he could, please.
Madam Speaker, I'm happy to withdraw my unparliamentary language. What I do point out is that the member, I believe, has chosen to misrepresent and mischaracterise the Commissioner for Children and Young People's findings and overview in this report. And in my report, response, Madam Speaker, I'm choosing not to characterise but to quote directly. the Commissioner's own words.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
And another
I'm
point
so
of
sick
order.
this. The last part of the question was, can the Minister tell the House when there will be in place oversight and monitoring of individual children?
Okay, well,
out
as you
of
know,
home care?
that's not a point of order, and I need to grant the Minister for those 2 points of orders at least another minute.
Perhaps you could
Thank
answer
you,
the
Madam
question.
Speaker. I'd like to continue to just put into the record the Commissioner's overview of the report and her intentions. She says, in this way, I hope to contribute to the current significant reform agenda underway in our child safety system more broadly, a reform agenda which I support. It is my strong view that we are at a pivotal point in the reform process, a point at which previous successive reform processes have failed, and that we must now push, invest and plan ahead positively to achieve a better child safety system for our children and young people. Madam Speaker, in particular relation to regulation, oversight and accountability in the system, I further note the Commissioner's comments that I acknowledge that the Government of Tasmania has already commenced work to strengthen the quality and accountability of the out-of-home care system. The quality and continuous improvement framework for out-of-home care is under development, and the Government is progressing implementation of recommendations of the Royal Commission
You're a
into
disgrace.
institutional responses to child sexual abuse, which are relevant to the
Ms O'Connor,
quality,
that is not helpful.
safety and accountability of the Tasmanian out-of-home care system. These reform initiatives are, in my opinion,
Mr. Byrne, can I remind
critical
you, you're on 2
to
orders.
ensuring that Tasmania has a robust and accountable out-of-home care system which promotes the well-being of children and young people. Madam Speaker, we are working on all fronts through a range of complex reforms.
5.5 years.
We have substantially reformed the intake component of our child safety system. We are working now with the sector on reform of the out-of-home care system and have
5.5
established a
years.
framework, a wellbeing framework, as well to measure it against. Madam Speaker, we have increased the powers of the children and the Commissioner for Children and Young People. We are working with the Commonwealth and other jurisdictions to ensure that the Child Safe Organisations framework
You haven't even
is
signed up
reflected
to it.
here as well, Madam
Ms
Speaker.
O'Connor, warning to.
And as the Commissioner points out, there is more work to do, but we are on track. We do have a plan, Madam Speaker. We have a better plan, a bigger plan than the government we replaced. We are fixing the child safety system that they left us, Madam Speaker, and we are delivering on our plan.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Ms